You know what really irks me? When hardworking folks who have paid their dues for decades, who have been registering and insuring their vehicles responsibly year after year without fail, suddenly get hit with surprise fees they never saw coming, extra trips to the DMV they did not budget time for, or bureaucratic paperwork headaches just to keep their car legally registered and on the road so they can maintain their independence and mobility. These are people who just want to renew their vehicle registration the same straightforward way they have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. And suddenly in 2026, they are discovering that the process has gotten trickier, more expensive, and significantly more complicated than it used to be. I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. In 2026, across the United States, vehicle registration renewals are getting genuinely more difficult for many drivers, and especially for seniors and people over 50 who are living on fixed retirement incomes and who cannot easily absorb unexpected costs or navigate sudden changes to long familiar processes. States are implementing higher registration fees in some cases with increases of 30, 40, even 50% or more compared to just a few years ago. There are stricter identity verification checks and documentation requirements that catch people off guard when they show up to renew. There are new or expanded surcharges for certain types of vehicles that people did not know existed. And there are shifts between online and in-person renewal options that create confusion about what you can do from home and what requires an actual trip to the DMV office. Many seniors and older drivers are showing up to their DMV offices or trying to renew online completely unprepared for these changes, and they are walking away frustrated, facing unexpected costs, or having to make multiple trips back because they did not have the right documents the first time. I have seen this happen too many times while helping people cut through government red tape and navigate bureaucratic systems that seem designed to confuse rather than serve. Today, I want to clear up the myths and misinformation, separate the real changes from the exaggerated nonsense, and give you the actual facts about what is changing with vehicle registration in 2026 and what you specifically need to do to stay ahead, protect yourself from surprise costs, and maintain your ability to keep your vehicle legally registered without unnecessary hassle. And because I know many of you watching are in California, I will give you California-specific guidance in addition to the national trends, so you know exactly what applies in your state. Before we dive into the specific hurdles and what you need to do, let me start by debunking the biggest myth and piece of misinformation I have been seeing circulating online and in community conversations. No, there is not some new federal senior vehicle registration tax targeting people over 50 or over 65. No, there is not a nationwide crackdown or special enforcement program aimed specifically at older drivers just because of their age. These are not age-specific rules designed to punish seniors. What is actually happening is that states across the country are making budget-driven adjustments, updating enforcement of existing regulations, and responding to very real transportation funding challenges, including things like declining gas tax revenue caused by more fuel-efficient vehicles and the growing number of electric and hybrid cars on the road that pay little or no gas tax but still use the roads. Here is the real truth about what is driving these changes. States fund road maintenance, highway construction, bridge repairs, and transportation infrastructure primarily through a combination of gas taxes that you pay when you fill up your tank and vehicle registration fees that you pay annually or biennially when you renew your tags. Over the past 10 to 15 years, as cars have become dramatically more fuel efficient and as electric and hybrid vehicles have become more common, gas tax revenue has been declining steadily in many states, even as the number of miles driven continues to increase. This creates a massive funding gap. Roads still need to be maintained and repaired. Bridges still need to be inspected and fixed. But the traditional funding mechanism is bringing in less money each year. So states are responding by raising vehicle registration fees to make up the difference, by adding special surcharges for electric and hybrid vehicles that are not paying their fair share of road maintenance costs through gas taxes, and by implementing weight-based or emissions-based fee structures that charge more for heavier vehicles that cause more wear and tear on roads. These changes affect all drivers, regardless of age, but older drivers and retirees notice them more acutely for several specific reasons. First, seniors and people over 50 tend to renew their vehicle registrations faithfully and on time every single year without fail, whereas younger drivers are more likely to let renewals lapse or drive with expired tags for a while before getting around to it. So when fees go up, responsible older drivers see the increase immediately. Second, many retirees are living on fixed incomes from Social Security, pensions, and retirement savings, which means that even a $20, $30, or $50 increase in registration fees represents a meaningful percentage of their limited discretionary budget. Third, older drivers often drive the same reliable vehicle for many years rather than trading up frequently, which means they notice fee changes more than someone who is constantly buying new cars and experiencing different fee structures. Now, let me walk you through the three biggest real hidden hurdles that are affecting vehicle registration renewals in 2026 across the country, explain exactly why they catch people by surprise, give you specific state examples of how these changes are playing out, and most importantly, tell you what you need to do right now to prepare and protect yourself. The first major hidden hurdle that is hitting drivers hard in 2026 is the dramatic increase in registration fees and the introduction of weight-based, emissions-based, and vehicle type-based fee structures that are catching people completely off guard when they go to renew. Many states have significantly raised their base vehicle registration fees over the past 2 to 3 years, and 2026 represents the full implementation of those increases in many jurisdictions. Let me give you some specific real examples of what is actually happening in different states so you understand this is not theoretical or exaggerated. In Ohio, the base registration fee for non-commercial passenger vehicles increased from $11 to $16, which might not sound like a huge increase, but represents nearly a 45% jump. For someone on a fixed income who budgeted exactly what they paid last year, that extra $5 might be the difference between having enough money in their checking account or coming up short. In Maryland, the situation is even more dramatic. Maryland implemented a new weight-based and vehicle class-based fee structure where registration fees can range from approximately $50 for a small, lightweight car all the way up to $180 or more for heavier trucks and SUVs. That means someone driving a family SUV or a pickup truck, which are extremely common vehicles for older Americans, especially those living in suburban or rural areas, could be facing registration fees that are 60 to 75% higher than what they paid just a few years ago. That is not a small inconvenience. That is a significant, unexpected expense. In several states, including Washington, Oregon, and Illinois, legislators have introduced or implemented special surcharges specifically for electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles to compensate for the fact that these vehicles pay little or no gas tax, but still use the roads. These surcharges typically range from $100 to $250 per year on top of the regular registration fees. Now, you might think this does not affect you if you drive a traditional gas-powered car, and you are right that the EV surcharge itself does not. But here is the hidden problem. As more and more vehicles on the road become electric or hybrid and start paying these surcharges, states are less motivated to keep base registration fees low for everyone else because they have this new revenue stream. So even if you are driving a regular gas car, you are still likely to see your base fees creep up over time as states adjust their overall fee structures. Another hidden aspect of these fee increases involves how fees are calculated based on vehicle weight, which many drivers do not even think about or know how to determine. In states that use weight-based fee structures, a heavier vehicle pays significantly more to register than a lighter one, which makes some logical sense because heavier vehicles cause more wear and tear on road surfaces. But here is the problem. Many older drivers, especially those who bought larger family vehicles years ago when gas was cheaper or when they needed room for grandchildren, are now driving SUVs, minivans, or pickup trucks that fall into higher weight categories and therefore trigger higher fees. A retired couple who has been driving the same reliable Honda Pilot or Toyota Highlander for 10 years might suddenly discover that their registration fee has jumped by $30, $50, or $80 annually just because their vehicle weight pushes them into a higher fee bracket. They did not buy a new car, they did not change anything about their situation, but the fee structure changed underneath them, and now they are paying more. Here is what this looks like specifically in California, since I know many viewers are here. California has been relatively stable in terms of base registration fees compared to some other states, and there have not been major senior-specific or age-based fee increases for regular passenger vehicle registration in 2026. The base registration fee in California is calculated using a complex formula based on the vehicle's value, weight, and age. But for most passenger cars, the annual registration fee typically ranges from about $50 to several $100s, depending on those factors. However, California does charge a higher registration fee for heavier vehicles and for certain commercial or specialty vehicle classifications. Additionally, California has various add-on fees, including smog abatement fees, transportation improvement fees, county and district fees, and other charges that can add up quickly. While California has not implemented a dramatic across-the-board fee increase in 2026, it is absolutely critical that you check the current DMV fee schedule on the California DMV website, because fees do get adjusted periodically, and what you paid last year may not be exactly what you will pay this year. So what should you do right now to prepare for and minimize the impact of these fee increases? First, go to your state DMV website and find the vehicle registration fee calculator or fee schedule. Most states, including California, have online tools where you can enter your vehicle information, license plate number, or VIN, and get an estimate of exactly what your renewal will cost before you actually pay. Use this tool proactively before your renewal comes due so you know what to expect and can budget accordingly. Do not wait until you get your renewal notice in the mail to discover that the fee has gone up. Second, check whether your vehicle's weight classification is accurately reflected in the DMV system. In some cases, vehicles are incorrectly categorized into higher weight classes due to data entry errors or outdated information. If you believe your vehicle is being charged in the wrong weight category, you can request a correction from the DMV, although you may need to provide documentation like the vehicle's manufacturer specifications or registration documents from other states. Third, investigate whether your state offers any discounts, exemptions, or reduced fees for seniors, retirees, people with disabilities, veterans, or low-income residents. Some states do provide modest registration fee reductions for certain categories of drivers, although these programs are not widely advertised and you often have to ask specifically or search the DMV website to find them. California, for example, offers disabled person parking placards and plates, which can provide some fee benefits, although they do not reduce the base registration fee significantly. Other states have more generous senior discount programs. It is worth 15 minutes of research to find out whether you qualify for anything that could save you money. Fourth, consider whether paying for a multi-year registration makes sense for your situation. Some states, including California, allow you to renew your vehicle registration for 2 years instead of 1 year. If fees are increasing annually, locking in a 2-year renewal at today's rate could save you money compared to paying next year's higher rate. However, you need to calculate whether the upfront cost of a 2-year renewal fits your current budget and whether you are confident you will keep the vehicle for the full 2 years. For many retirees on fixed incomes, spreading costs out in smaller annual payments is more manageable than paying a larger amount all at once. So this is a personal decision based on your financial situation. The second major hidden hurdle affecting vehicle registration renewals in 2026 is the significantly stricter identity verification and proof of legal status requirements that are being enforced at DMV offices across the country, including enhanced documentation requirements related to Real ID implementation, tighter residency verification standards, and more aggressive checks of insurance status and vehicle ownership. These changes are catching thousands of drivers completely off guard, especially older drivers who have been renewing their registration the same simple way for decades and suddenly discover that the documents they always brought are no longer sufficient, or that they need additional proof they did not know to bring. Let me start with the most dramatic example, which is happening right now in Texas. In 2026, Texas implemented new regulations requiring all vehicle owners to provide proof of legal presence and lawful status in the United States when registering or renewing registration for their vehicles. This means that in addition to the normal registration renewal documents, Texas residents must now present a government-issued photo ID, such as a driver's license or passport, proof of residency with documents like utility bills or lease agreements, and in some cases, additional documentation proving citizenship or legal immigration status. For people who have been Texas residents their entire lives and have been registering vehicles in Texas for 40 or 50 years, this feels like an insult and an unnecessary bureaucratic burden. But the requirement applies to everyone, regardless of how long you have lived in the state, and failing to bring the proper documents means you will be turned away and have to come back another day. The Real ID Act, which is federal law that was passed back in 2005 but only became fully enforced in May 2025, also continues to create complications for vehicle registration in many states, even though Real ID is technically about driver's licenses and not directly about vehicle registration. Here's how this affects you. In many states, when you go to the DMV in person to handle vehicle registration matters, especially if you are doing something beyond a simple online renewal, such as transferring a title, adding or removing a name from registration, or resolving a registration issue that requires in-person verification, the DMV staff will ask for identification, and they increasingly expect or require a Real ID compliant driver's license or another federally approved form of identification like a passport. If your driver's license is not Real ID compliant, meaning it does not have the star symbol in the upper right corner, some DMV offices may give you a harder time or require additional documentation to prove your identity and residency for vehicle registration purposes. Even in states where Real ID compliance is not strictly required for vehicle registration transactions, the overall culture and procedures at DMV offices have shifted towards stricter identity verification across the board. DMV employees are being trained to scrutinize documents more carefully, to verify that addresses match across multiple forms of documentation, and to reject documents that do not meet specific freshness or format requirements. This is where many older drivers get tripped up. Maybe you bring a utility bill as proof of residency, but the DMV says it needs to be dated within the last 90 days and yours is 4 months old, so it gets rejected. Maybe your car insurance policy lists your name slightly differently than your driver's license, perhaps with a middle initial on one and not the other, and the DMV clerk decides this is a discrepancy that needs to be resolved before they will process your registration. Maybe you bring your social security card as identification, but it is worn, faded, and hard to read, and the clerk says they cannot accept it in that condition, and you need to get a replacement from Social Security Administration first. These kinds of documentation problems did not used to cause major issues. 5 or 10 years ago, a DMV clerk would often use common sense, look at your various documents, recognize that you are clearly who you say you are, and that you live where you claim to live, and process your transaction without making a big deal about minor discrepancies or outdated dates. But in 2026, with stricter enforcement, increased fraud concerns, and more rigid policies, DMV employees have less discretion to be flexible, and they are required to follow the documentation rules precisely, even when it seems unnecessarily strict. Here's what this looks like specifically in California, Real ID compliance is not directly tied to vehicle registration in California, meaning you can register your vehicle even if your driver's license is not Real ID compliant. However, if you need to conduct any in-person business at a California DMV office related to your vehicle registration, having a Real ID compliant license or a passport makes the process much smoother and reduces the chance of documentation problems. California DMV requires proof of residency for various vehicle-related transactions, and the acceptable documents include things like recent utility bills, bank statements, mortgage or rental agreements, and other documents showing your current California address. The key word is recent. California generally expects residency documents to be dated within the past 90 days, so you cannot just bring an old electric bill from 6 months ago and expect it to be accepted. California also has relatively strict requirements around vehicle insurance verification. When you register or renew your vehicle registration in California, the DMV electronically verifies that you have active auto insurance that meets the state's minimum liability coverage requirements. If the DMV system cannot verify your insurance, if there is any lapse in coverage, even if it is just for 1 or 2 days due to a payment processing issue or a gap when you switched insurance companies, or if your insurance company has not properly reported your coverage information to the DMV database, your registration renewal can be delayed or rejected. This happens more often than you might think. And it is especially common when people switch insurance companies and there is a brief gap or reporting delay between when the old policy ends and the new policy information gets into the DMV system. So what should you do right now to avoid being caught off guard by stricter documentation requirements? First, create a physical folder or large envelope that you keep in a safe place at home, labeled DMV documents or vehicle registration documents, and gather all of the following items to keep in that folder so they are ready whenever you need them. Include your current driver's license or passport, your social security card, or a recent W-2 form or tax return that shows your social security number, at least 2 different recent documents proving your current address, such as a utility bill dated within the past 90 days, a bank or credit card statement from the last 2 months, a mortgage statement or property tax bill, or a signed rental or lease agreement, a copy of your current vehicle insurance policy declaration page or insurance card clearly showing your name, the vehicle identification information, and the policy dates, your vehicle title or previous registration documents, and if applicable, any documents related to a name change, such as a marriage certificate or court order if your current name does not exactly match what appears on older vehicle documents. Second, verify that your current address is correct in all relevant systems. Make sure the address on your driver's license matches the address where you actually live and where your vehicle is registered. Make sure your vehicle insurance policy lists the correct address. Make sure your vehicle registration lists the correct address. Mismatched addresses across these different documents can create problems and delays when you try to renew. If you have moved recently, even if it is just from one apartment to another in the same building or from one house to another on the same street, you are legally required to notify the DMV of your address change, and doing so proactively before you renew your vehicle registration will prevent headaches later. Third, if you need to conduct any vehicle registration business in person at a DMV office, schedule an appointment in advance using your state DMV's online appointment system if one is available. California allows you to make appointments for many types of DMV transactions through dmv.ca.gov, and having an appointment typically means much shorter wait times and more predictable service. When you go to your appointment, bring everything in your DMV documents folder, even if you do not think you will need all of it. It is far better to have a document and not need it than to need a document and not have it and be forced to leave and come back another day. Fourth, consider using alternative service providers if they are available in your state for simple registration renewals. California has partnerships with ATA Auto Club offices where ATA members can handle many DMV transactions, including vehicle registration renewals, without going to an actual DMV office. AAA offices tend to be less crowded, have better customer service, and can help you navigate documentation requirements. There are also private DMV service businesses in some areas that will handle registration renewals on your behalf for a service fee. For busy people or those who find the DMV process overwhelming, paying $20 or $30 to have someone else deal with it can be money well spent. The third major hidden hurdle affecting vehicle registration in 2026 involves the ongoing shifts between online and in-person renewal options, unexpected system outages or transitions that temporarily disrupt normal processes, and increased enforcement of emissions testing and insurance verification that catches people by surprise. The overall trend across the country is toward more online and digital services, which in theory should make things easier and more convenient. But the transition to digital systems has been bumpy and uneven, and many older drivers are caught in the middle between old paper-based processes that no longer work the way they used to and new online systems that they find confusing or inaccessible. Many states, including California, have made significant investments in online vehicle registration renewal systems that allow you to complete your entire renewal from home without ever visiting a DMV office. This is genuinely convenient when it works well. You go to the DMV website, enter your license plate number or renewal notice information, verify your details, pay the fee with a credit or debit card, and receive your new registration card and stickers by mail within a week or two. For simple, straightforward renewals where nothing has changed since last year, this process works smoothly and is far better than spending 2 hours waiting at the DMV. However, there are many situations where online renewal is not available or does not work, and this is where people get frustrated. If your vehicle requires an emissions test or smog check and you have not completed it yet, you cannot renew online. You need to get the smog check done first. If there are any flags, holds, or issues on your vehicle record, such as unpaid parking tickets, unpaid tolls, insurance verification problems, or unresolved accidents, you may not be able to renew online and may be required to visit a DMV office in person to resolve the issue. If you need to make any changes to your registration, such as adding or removing a co-owner, updating your address, or correcting an error, you typically cannot do that through the simple online renewal system and need to handle it in person or by mail with additional forms. Some states have also experienced significant technical problems and system outages during their transitions to new digital platforms. Colorado, for example, went through a major DMV computer system upgrade in late 2025 and early 2026 that caused temporary shutdowns of online services and created massive backlogs and delays. During these transition periods, people who were counting on being able to renew online found themselves unable to do so and were forced to go to DMV offices in person, which were already overcrowded and understaffed. These kinds of system problems are unpredictable and can happen in any state that is upgrading or changing its technology infrastructure. Another complication involves the increasing automation of insurance and emissions verification systems, which sounds like it should make things easier, but in practice creates problems for many drivers. When you go to renew your vehicle registration, the DMV's computer system automatically queries the insurance database to verify that you have active coverage. If the system does not find a match, if there is any discrepancy in how your name or vehicle information is listed, or if your insurance company has not properly reported your policy information, the system will flag your renewal and prevent you from completing it until the insurance issue is resolved. The problem is that these automated systems are not perfect. They sometimes have data that is hours or days out of date, and they do not always correctly match up records when there are minor variations in how information is entered. Here is what this looks like in California specifically. Most California drivers can renew their vehicle registration online as long as their registration is not flagged for smog check, their insurance is verified in the system, and there are no other holds or issues. California law requires all vehicles to have liability insurance, and the DMV automatically verifies this through electronic data sharing with insurance companies. If you have recently switched insurance companies, if your policy recently renewed and the new information has not yet made it into the DMV database, or if there is any kind of mismatch, you may discover when you try to renew online that the system says it cannot verify your insurance and you need to contact the insurance company or submit proof manually. This is frustrating because you know you have insurance, you have been paying for it faithfully, but the computer system does not recognize it due to a technical problem. California also requires most vehicles to pass a smog check every 2 years. If your vehicle is due for a smog check, you cannot renew your registration until you get the smog check completed and the results are electronically transmitted to the DMV. Smog check requirements are automatically tracked in the DMV system, and your renewal notice will tell you whether smog is required. For many older vehicles, especially those that are more than 10 or 15 years old, passing smog can sometimes be challenging if the vehicle has maintenance issues or if emissions control components are starting to fail. If your vehicle fails smog, you need to get it repaired and retested before you can complete your registration renewal, which can add significant unexpected cost and delay. So what should you do to navigate these online versus in-person challenges and avoid surprises? First, always try to renew online first if your state offers that option. Go to your state DMV website, which for California is dmv.ca.gov, and look for the vehicle registration renewal section. Follow the prompts to enter your information and see whether the system allows you to complete the renewal. If it works, great, you are done in 5 minutes. If the system gives you an error message or tells you that you must renew in person, at least you now know that before you wasted time going to the DMV. Second, if your vehicle is due for a smog check or emissions test, do not wait until the last minute. California sends out registration renewal notices about 90 days before your registration expires, and if smog is required, it will say so on the notice. Schedule your smog check appointment as soon as you receive that notice, ideally at least 4 to 6 weeks before your registration expires. This gives you time to deal with any problems if the vehicle fails, to get repairs done, to get retested, and to get the results into the DMV system before your deadline. Smog check stations electronically transmit passing results to the DMV within minutes. So once you pass smog, you can usually renew online immediately. Third, make absolutely certain that your auto insurance is current and that your insurance company has your correct information. Call your insurance company or check your online account to verify that your policy is active and that the vehicle information matches exactly what is on your registration. If you are planning to switch insurance companies, do not let there be any gap in coverage, not even 1 day, because that gap will be reported to the DMV and can cause problems. If you do switch insurance, give the new company all of your vehicle information carefully and accurately and ask them to confirm that they will be reporting your coverage to the state DMV system. Fourth, keep a printed copy of your current vehicle registration and insurance documents in your vehicle at all times, and keep backup copies at home in your DMV documents folder. If you encounter any problem where the DMV system says it cannot verify something that you know is valid, having physical printed documentation can help you resolve the issue more quickly, either by showing it to a DMV employee or by sending it to the DMV by mail or fax to clear up the discrepancy. Now let me step back and address the broader picture of why these changes are happening and why they affect everyone, but hit older drivers particularly hard. State motor vehicle departments are under enormous pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. They are dealing with declining revenue from traditional sources like gas taxes. They are facing increasing demands to upgrade technology and provide online services. They are being pressured to improve security and reduce identity fraud and vehicle-related crime. They are trying to comply with federal mandates like Real ID, and they are often operating with budgets that have been cut or have not kept pace with inflation, which means fewer staff, longer wait times, and more reliance on automated systems that do not always work perfectly. At the same time, the vehicle fleet on American roads is changing dramatically. There are more electric vehicles, more hybrid vehicles, more vehicles with advanced technology and higher value, and more diversity in vehicle types, from tiny urban cars to massive trucks and SUVs. Registration fee structures that made sense 20 years ago when most vehicles were similar gas-powered sedans do not make as much sense in today's diverse vehicle environment. States are trying to create fairer fee systems that account for vehicle weight, emissions, fuel type, and road impact. But implementing these new fee structures is complicated and creates confusion and unexpected costs for many drivers. For older drivers specifically, these changes create several distinct challenges. First, if you have been renewing your vehicle registration the same way for 20 or 30 or 40 years, changes to that familiar process feel disruptive and frustrating even when the changes are relatively minor. Second, if you are on a fixed retirement income, unexpected fee increases directly impact your budget in ways that are harder to absorb than they would be for someone with a full-time income who could simply work a few extra hours or adjust their spending more easily. Third, if you are not comfortable with computers and online systems, the shift toward digital services can feel excluding and can force you to seek help from family members or friends to complete transactions that used to be simple paper-based processes. And fourth, stricter documentation requirements can be harder to meet if you have mobility issues that make it difficult to gather multiple documents, travel to get copies of things, or make multiple trips to DMV offices. I want to acknowledge very directly that these frustrations are real and valid. If you have been a responsible driver and taxpayer for decades, if you have maintained your vehicle properly and renewed your registration on time every single year without fail, if you have never caused problems or tried to cheat the system, it feels deeply unfair to suddenly face higher fees, more paperwork, stricter requirements, and more bureaucratic hassles. You are entitled to feel frustrated and annoyed by these changes. That frustration is legitimate. At the same time, I want to offer some perspective that might help you understand why these changes are happening and why they are not personal attacks on you or on seniors. The fees and systems are being adjusted because states genuinely need more revenue to maintain the roads and infrastructure that we all use and depend on. Every time you drive to the grocery store to visit your grandchildren, to go to a doctor's appointment, or to take a scenic drive, you are using roads and bridges that need constant maintenance and repair. That maintenance has to be paid for somehow, and if gas taxes are bringing in less money due to more efficient vehicles, then registration fees have to make up the difference, or roads will deteriorate. The stricter documentation and identity verification requirements are being implemented because vehicle registration fraud, identity theft, and various forms of abuse of the DMV systems are real problems that cost states money and create risks. When systems are too loose and easy to game, criminals take advantage. When verification is stricter, it is harder for the dishonest few to abuse the system, which protects everyone else. Yes, it creates inconvenience for honest people, but the alternative of having no verification would create much bigger problems. The shift toward online and digital services is happening because that is genuinely how most people prefer to handle transactions in 2026. The vast majority of drivers, especially those under 50, would much rather renew their registration online in 5 minutes from their phone or computer than drive to a DMV office, park, wait in line, and deal with a clerk. DMV offices are investing in online systems because that is what most of their customers are demanding. The fact that some older drivers find those systems less accessible is a real problem that DMVs should work to address through better training, clear instructions, and maintaining in-person options for those who need them. But the overall direction toward more online services is not going to reverse. So what is the best way to handle all of this as someone over 50 who just wants to keep your vehicle registered without unnecessary hassle or expense? Preparation and information are your best tools. Do not wait until your registration is about to expire to start thinking about renewal. Do not assume that the process will be exactly the same as last year. Do not rely on rumors, secondhand information, or what your neighbor told you about what they experienced in a different state. Instead, take control of the process by getting accurate official information directly from your state DMV and by preparing in advance. Here is a practical action checklist that you can start working through today, regardless of when your current vehicle registration expires. First, find out exactly when your vehicle registration expires. Look at your current registration card or the sticker on your license plate. Note the expiration month and year. Put a reminder in your calendar or phone for 3 months before that expiration date so you have plenty of advance notice to prepare. Second, go to your state DMV website. If you are in California, that is dmv.ca.gov. For other states, search for your state name plus DMV or motor vehicles. Spend some time exploring the website. Find the vehicle registration renewal section. Read the instructions for how to renew. Check whether online renewal is available. Look for information about fees and what documents you need. Many DMV websites have fee calculators where you can enter your license plate number or vehicle information and get an estimate of what your renewal will cost. Third, create your DMV documents folder that I described earlier with all of your important identification, residency, insurance, and vehicle documents organized and ready to use whenever needed. Do this now, not 3 days before your registration expires when you are stressed and rushed. Fourth, if your state allows online renewal and you are comfortable using a computer, practice going through the renewal process on your state DMV website, even if your registration is not due yet. Many states let you start the process and see what information is required, even if you do not complete the payment. This practice run helps you understand what you will need when the time comes. If you are not comfortable with computers, ask a trusted family member or friend to help you learn the online process, or accept that you will need to handle renewal in person or by mail and prepare accordingly. Fifth, check whether you qualify for any discounts, exemptions, or special programs for seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, or low-income residents. This information is usually on the DMV website, but may not be prominently displayed. It is worth searching specifically for senior discounts or reduced fees to see if anything applies to you. Sixth, make sure your vehicle insurance is current and your policy information is accurate. Call your insurance company, verify your coverage, and ask them to confirm that your information has been reported to the state DMV system. If you plan to make any changes to your insurance, do so well before your registration renewal is due. Seventh, if your vehicle requires periodic emissions testing or smog checks, find out when yours is next due and get it done early. Do not wait until your registration is about to expire to deal with smog check requirements, because if your vehicle fails, you will need time to get it repaired and retested. Let me now speak very directly to those of you who are feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or anxious about these vehicle registration changes. I get it. You have paid your dues for decades. You have followed every rule, paid every fee, renewed every document on time, and kept your vehicles safe and properly maintained. You just want to continue doing what you have always done without new complications or higher costs. It feels unfair that the government keeps making things harder and more expensive, especially when you are living on a fixed retirement income and trying to stretch every dollar as far as possible. But here's what I want you to understand. Your vehicle represents freedom and independence. It means you can go where you need to go, see who you want to see, run your own errands, attend your own appointments, and maintain control over your own life without depending on others to drive you around. That independence is worth protecting, and keeping your vehicle properly registered is part of protecting it. Letting your registration lapse because the renewal process seems too complicated or too expensive creates far bigger problems, including fines if you get pulled over, potential impoundment of your vehicle, difficulty getting insurance, and the risk of losing your legal ability to drive. The changes I have described today, while frustrating, are manageable if you prepare properly. The fee increases, while annoying, are still typically far less expensive than the cost of dealing with tickets, fines, and penalties for driving with expired registration. The documentation requirements, while stricter, are things you can gather and organize in advance so you are ready when needed. The shifts between online and in-person services, while sometimes confusing, give you more options for how to handle renewal in ways that work for your situation. Being prepared keeps you in control. It means you can continue enjoying the freedom that your vehicle provides without the stress of bureaucratic problems. It means you can budget appropriately for the costs instead of being caught off guard. It means you can maintain your independence and mobility for as long as you are able to drive safely. So here's what I want you to do right now today before you move on to your next YouTube video or your next activity. Pause for a moment, go to your state DMV website. If you are in California, go to dmv.ca.gov. Spend 10 minutes reading about vehicle registration renewal requirements for 2026. Find out what the current fees are, check what documents you need, see if you can renew online or if you need to go in person. If your registration is coming due in the next 3 to 6 months, start preparing now. If your registration is not due for a while, still use this time to gather your documents and understand the process so you are ready when the time comes. And please share your experience in the comments below. Tell me what state you are in and what surprises or challenges you have encountered with vehicle registration in 2026. Your experience can help other viewers who are dealing with similar issues or who live in the same state. If you have tips or tricks that made the process easier for you, share those as well, because we all benefit from learning from each other. If this video helped you understand what is really changing with vehicle registration and gave you practical steps to prepare, hit the subscribe button so you do not miss future videos where I continue cutting through government bureaucracy and helping you navigate systems that seem designed to confuse. Share this video with friends, family members, neighbors, or anyone else you know who is over 50 and drives a vehicle, because they need this information as much as you do. Remember, the information in this video is current as of February 2026 and is based on publicly available information from state DMV websites and official government sources. Rules and fees can change, so always verify the most current requirements directly with your state DMV before making important decisions. Stay safe, stay registered, and keep enjoying the freedom and independence that your vehicle provides.